Hey, squirrels! Sorry about that last reading. I was just that little outing yesterday when Marianne and I went to the hospital. Wore my tail out, I guess. Sorry. 2 thumbs down. Wah, wah. Who knows? Special friends. So Charlie attitudinized, love that word, unnoticed and was I'm going reading, I think. I think going back over a little bit of what I read before. I'm not sure. And was getting rather out of temper when Phoebe began to sing, and he forgot all about himself in admiration. I remember saying administration. Admiration of her. It's hyphenated, and the rest of it's on another line, so that's my excuse. It took everyone by surprise, for 2 years of foreign training, added to several at home, had worked wonders, and the beautiful voice that used to warble cheerily over pots and kettles now rang out melodiously or melted to a mellow music that woke a sympathetic thrill in those who listened. Rose glowed with pride as she accompanied her friend, for Phoebe was in her own world now, a lovely world where no depressing memory of poorhouse or kitchen, ignorance or loneliness came to trouble her. A happy world where she could be herself and rule others by the magic of her sweet gift. Yes, Phoebe was herself now, and showed it in the change that came over her at the first note of music. No longer shy and silent, no longer the image of a handsome girl, but a blooming woman, alive and full of the eloquence her art gave her, as she laid her hands softly together, fixed her eye on the light, and just poured out her song as simply and joyfully as the lark does soaring toward the sun. My faith, Alec, that's the sort of voice that wins a man's heart out of his breast, exclaimed Uncle Mac, wiping his eyes after one of the plaintive ballads that never grow old. So it would, answered Dr. Alec delightedly. So it has, added Archie to himself, and he was right, for just at that moment he fell in love with Phoebe. He actually did, and could fix the time almost to a second. I think I read this part too. For at a quarter past 9, he merely thought her a very charming young person. At 20 minutes past, he considered her the loveliest woman he ever beheld. At 25 past, she was an angel singing his soul away, and at 9:30, he was a lost man, floating over a delicious sea to that temporary heaven on earth where lovers usually land after the first rapturous plunge. If anyone had mentioned this astonishing fact, nobody would have believed it, nevertheless, but it was quite true, and sober, business-like Archie suddenly discovered a fund of romance at the bottom of his hitherto well-conducted heart that amazed him. He was not quite clear what had happened to him at first, and set about in a dazed sort of way, seeing, hearing, knowing nothing but Phoebe, while the unconscious idol found something wanting in the cordial praise so modestly received, because Mr. Archie never said a word. This was one of the remarkable things which occurred that evening. Another was that Mac paid Rose a compliment, which was such an unprecedented fact, it produced a great sensation, though only one person heard it. Everybody had gone but Mac and his father, who was busy with the doctor. Aunt Plenty was counting the teaspoons in the dining room, and Phoebe was helping her, as of old. Mac and Rose were alone, he apparently in a brown study, leaning his elbows on the chimney-piece, and she lying back in a low chair, looking thoughtfully at the fire. She was tired, and the quiet was grateful to her, so she kept silence, and Mac respectfully held his tongue. Presently, however, she became conscious that he was looking at her as intently as eyes and glasses could do it, And without stirring from her comfortable attitude, she said, smiling up at him, "He looks as wise as an owl. I wonder what he's thinking about." "You, cousin. Something good, I hope." "I was thinking Lee Hunt was about right when he said a girl is the sweetest thing God ever made." "Why, Mac," and Rose sat bolt upright with an astonished face. This was such an entirely unexpected sort of remark for the philosopher to make. Evidently interested in the new discovery, Mac placidly continued, "Do you know, it seems as if I never really saw a girl before, or had any idea what agreeable creatures they could be. I fancy you are a remarkably good specimen, Rose." "No, indeed. I'm only hearty and happy, and being safe at home again may make me look better than usual, perhaps, but I'm no beauty, except to Uncle." "Hearty and happy, that must be it," echoed Mac, soberly investigating the problem. "Most girls are sickly or silly, I think I have observed, and that is probably why I'm so struck with you. Of all the queer boys, you are the queerest. Do you really mean that you don't like or notice girls?" asked Rose, much amused at this new peculiarity of her studious cousin. "Well, no, I'm only conscious of two sorts. Noisy and quiet ones. I prefer the latter, but as a general thing, I don't notice any of them much more than I do flies, unless they bother me. Then I'd like to flap them away, but as that won't do, I hide." Rose leaned back and laughed until her eyes were full. It was so comical to hear Mac sink his voice to a confidential whisper at the last words, and see him smile with sinful satisfaction at the memory of the tormentors he had eluded. "You needn't laugh. It's a fact, I assure you. Charlie likes the creatures, and they spoil him. Steve follows suit, of course. Archie is a respectful slave when he can't help himself. As for me, I don't often give them a chance, and when I get caught, I talk science and dead languages till they run for their lives. Now and then I find a sensible one, and then we get on excellently." "A sad prospect for Phoebe and me," sighed Rose, trying to keep sober. "Phoebe is evidently a quiet one. I know she is sensible, or you wouldn't care for her. I can see that she is pleasant to look at, so I fancy I shall like her. As for you, I helped bring you up, therefore I am a little anxious to see how you turn out. I was afraid your foreign polish might spoil you, but I think it has not. In fact, I find you quite satisfactory so far, if you don't mind my saying it. I don't quite know what the charm is, though. Must be the power of inward graces, since you insist that you have no outer ones." Mac was peering at her with a shrewd smile on his lips, but such a kindly look behind the glasses, that she found both words and glance very pleasant, and answered merrily, "I'm glad you approve of me, and much obliged for your care of my early youth. I hope to be a credit to you, and depend on your keeping me straight, for I'm afraid I shall be spoilt among you all." "I'll keep my eye on you upon one condition," replied the youthful mentor. "Name it." "If you're going to have a lot of lovers around, I'll wash my hands of you. If not, I'm your man." "You must be a sheepdog, and help keep them away, for I don't want any yet a while, and between ourselves, I don't believe I shall have any, if it is known that I am strong-minded. That fact will scare most men away like a yellow flag," said Rose, for thanks to Dr. Alec's guardianship, she had wasted neither heart nor time in the foolish flirtation so many girls fritter away their youth upon. "I rather doubt that," muttered Mac, as he surveyed the damsel before him. She certainly did not look unpleasantly strong-minded, and she was beautiful in spite of her modest denials. Beautiful with the truest sort of beauty, for nobility of character lent its subtle charm to the bloom of youth, the freshness of health, the innocence of a nature whose sweet maiden maidenliness Mac felt but could not describe. Gentle yet full of spirit and all aglow with the earnestness that suggests lovely possibilities and makes one hope that such human flowers may have heaven's purest air and warmest sunshine to blossom in. Wait and see, answered Rose. Whistle a little bit. So I had Pepsi yesterday. Today's tea day. Let's see, wait and see. Then as her uncle's voice was heard in the hall, she held out her hand, adding pleasantly, "The old times are to begin again, so come soon and tell me all your doings. And help me with mine, just as you used to do. You really mean it?" And Mac looked much pleased. "I really do. You are so little altered, except to grow big, that I don't feel at all strange with you and want to begin where we left off." "That will be capital. Good night, cousin." And to her great amazement, he gave her a hearty kiss. "Oh, but that is not the old way at all," cried Rose, stepping back in merry confusion while the audacious youth assumed an air of mild surprise as he innocently asked, "Didn't we always say good night in that way?" "I had an impression that we did and were to begin just as we left off." "Of course not. No power on earth would have bribed you to do it, as you know well enough. I don't mind the first night, but we are too old for that sort of thing now." "I'll remember. It was force of habit, I suppose. For I'm sure I must have done it in former times. It seemed so natural. Coming, father." And Mac retired, evidently convinced he was right. "Dear old thing, he's as much a boy as ever, and that's such a comfort, for some of the others have grown up very fast," said Rose to herself, recalling Charlie's sentimental airs and Archie's beautified expression while Phoebe sang. Finally, that's the end of chapter 1. See how long chapter 2 is. I'll probably just read that because I like to keep the chapters separate. Ooh, Lordy, it's another long one. Goodness, I like long chapters. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28. 28 pages. Ooh, Lord. We'll see how far I get tomorrow. I hope you've had a wonderful day. I got to the podiatrist today. I had money. No folks were saying, "Oh, Lord, she spent her foot doctor money," because I said I did. And I did. But I remembered that I would get my YouTube check yesterday. I didn't remember yesterday, but anyway. All is good, except my feet are really bad. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. It's going to be alright. He's going to patch me up, I hope. Love you bunches. See you tomorrow at 5. Good night. I say, be sweet, don't be ugly. I just did.